Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to get us started, and I just realized I did not start at the beginning. There we go. I'm moving everyone around. I'm going to present, and welcome to our monthly webinar. Today, we will be hosting a few experts in the area of sexual assault because it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so welcome. What does PCOR stand for? Patient-Centered Outcome Research for Employees of the Near West Side. This is a grant project being implemented by two faculty at Marquette University, Dr. Dan Pinto and Dr. Abiola Keller. And with this, they are trying to build capacity and really promote collaboration regarding wellness for the employees of the Near West Side. So we're in year 4, and this year's focus is on COVID-19. Updates that we always want to make sure you're aware of here in the Near West Side. We always have plenty of stuff going. We have the Hunger Task Force, which was just yesterday. I apologize, I didn't update that one. The next one's May at Washington Park. You can go to their website, Hunger Task Force Mobile Market. You want to be sure and Google it in that way. And they are they're traveling through a few of locations within our Near West Side. And you can also have an opportunity to use a coupon. If you would like one, just contact me. They have a 50% off coupon, and we'd love to share it with you. Neighborhood House also has a food pantry. Folks are utilizing it, and it doesn't matter who you are. 53208, 53233 zip codes are welcome to participate. In addition to utilizing their services, they need volunteers and they do need donations. So if you have something you can do, please contact them. Sage is their coordinator. And finally, Live, Work, Play. This is a program implemented through the Near West Side, and our Associate Director, Lindsay St. Arnold Bell, came up with a creative idea in taking some of the funding that we've received and using it for home improvement. So do go to our website again. You can get a matching grant to do some exterior improvement, visual from the curb, and within restrictions and guidelines and permits, will be a matching grant up to $1,000. So do take advantage of that. 29 people have already made applications. A very successful program, and we're proud of that. The Choice Neighborhood Initiative has been ongoing since 2018. This is a HUD grant that we received, and we've, in part of that process and grant money, we developed a transformation plan. So this is a living, breathing document. Breathing, I guess not the right word, living document. It is posted now on our webpage. You just need to go to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative. First paragraph has transformation plan. Click on that, and you can read about the vision that we've created with support of our neighbors, how to make the Near West Side a great place to live, work, and play. We had a great cleanup 2 weeks ago on April 17th. So yay, a lot of folks came out. You can see a lot of garbage bags collected. Pete's Pops did a special little event over on their side of town on Bolete Street, and you had great success there. So thank you to everyone that came out. Thank you to Keeping Greater Milwaukee Beautiful, who supplied those buckets and those bags. And then mostly for every volunteer that came out and help clean up around our neighborhood, which leads me to we're doing another cleanup in a week. And this one's going to be located at 26th Street and Kilbourne Avenue. There's a cute little pocket park there maintained by the city. And we wanted to dive in a little deeper into the neighborhoods. So this is where we're going to start. We'll be doing this a few more times before the year is over. We will also have a dumpster there. So an opportunity to get rid of a few bigger items. We do need volunteers. Use that QR code, contact me, coordinator, for this role, coordinator2@nearwestsidepartners.org, and let us know that you'd like to help. Every bit counts, and we're really focusing on keeping the neighborhood looking bright and beautiful. COVID-19, we still have it, and we have vaccine available. So please consider getting a vaccine. They're safe, they're free, and they will help protect you and those you love. There's resources available. You can call and or go down to the Wisconsin Center that will be closing, I believe, in a few weeks. But regardless, they're free. If you're not sure about it, talk to your doctor, talk to your faith leader, find out what the scoop is, and really consider getting that vaccine. The more people get vaccine, the healthier our country is going to be. So we are always supporting vaccine. And along with previously, the federal government has provided more money and for families. So if you are needing help with groceries regarding children being at home, go to hungertaskforce.org, get help, and you can get signed up for the EBT program. If you already have an EBT, you will be seeing some extra funds go directly in there because of the federal stimulus. If you have questions, Hunger Task Force is a great resource to use. And then today we have two guests that will be talking to us about sexual assault. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I want to say, as I was researching sexual assault awareness, it's the 20th anniversary of it being a highlighted topic. And what we know is if we don't say something, that silence is acceptance. So it's important that we do continue to talk about the issues of sexual assault and, most importantly, resources for assistance and support. So I am going to introduce you to Emily Prosser and Stephanie Birr. Emily is on the, I'm talking so fast. Emily is on the CPU team, which stands for Community Prosecution Unit with District 3. And Stephanie is on the healing team, and she'll tell us more about that. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Thank you, ladies, for joining us, and I'll let you start rolling along.
Thank you so much, Barb. So yeah, as Barb said, we are both employed by Sojourner Family Peace Center. My role is working out of District 3 police districts, so I am out in the community quite a bit and have interacted with the Near West Side on a number of different topics related to domestic violence and sexual assault. And then Stephanie is also employed by Sojourner, and she has a slightly different role, and I'll let her kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having us. I am our healing support specialist. I just want to say, it sounds like you guys are doing a really, really cool work in the community, so thank you for all you do. We can't do this without you. My role really helps to support our support group efforts, and any kind of community-based healing experience, as well as connecting individuals and families to either like culturally supportive spaces, so that could be faith-based or community-based, things like that. So that's sort of the role. So Emily's kind of like frontline, maybe first contact for a lot of folks, and eventually they get connected to me.
Thanks, Stephanie. So as Barb mentioned, it is the 20th anniversary of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's every April, and it's really a month dedicated to highlighting sexual assault in all forms, calling awareness to it. This year's theme is building safe spaces online, because Sexual assault and harassment can happen anywhere, including online, especially as we have continued to build connections and relationships online, whether it's because we've been quarantined or just in general. So that is their big message this month. Barb, you can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, COVID-19, it has definitely posed some specific challenges for people in regards to sexual assault. That could be around staying safe, it could be around reporting crimes, or feeling like they're having difficulty maintaining ongoing support services. So as we know, home is not always the safest place for people, and sexual assaults can happen within the home, whether it's family or caretakers, things like that. And so when you are stuck inside of your home with no options to leave, it's really backing people into a corner of feeling like they don't have any other options. There also may be an element of increased coercion because there's a lack of employment, and they may feel like they need to do things in order to get money or to have resources, and people are going to take advantage of that. So COVID-19 has really posed specific challenges, and reporting may not always be easy. There's a very big case slowdown right now in the courts. A lot of cases are not going forward. There's a lot of dynamics to it. You know, as we know, the courts have been closed for quite some time. They're starting to open up. But it does pose an additional risk for people when they're trying to evaluate, do I speak out about this? Is it going to be worth it? Are people really going to hear me and believe me? Those kinds of things. And then will there be retaliation if nothing happens? So in regards to services, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Stephanie, and what our services have looked like despite COVID-19.
Yeah, just like the rest of the world, everything turned remotely this year. So a lot of phone calls, texts, emails, virtual calls, whatever. I mean, this is usual for us, but whatever is most accessible and feels the most safe for clients reaching out to us. Everything we've offered before COVID is still happening. So one thing we really wanted to highlight is that our restraining order office is still open and helping people file electronically. It's still not in person. Anyone you're talking to could fill out that paperwork online. But I will say, and Emily knows this very well too, that it is complicated and it takes time. So it is worth just to have an advocate who really gets it and can move you through it and answer any questions in real time, just so you don't make more work than you need to at a very time-sensitive moment in someone's life. All of our services have always remained confidential, are still confidential. We work really hard to pivot and do that in a world where we're all on computers now. And yeah, child care programming, group services is all happening in a virtual manner, online, through emails, which has kind of been a blessing that we've been able to see new ways to connect with folks, especially people that have transportation issues or maybe live outside of Milwaukee or work certain hours. So just wanted to mention that. And our shelter has always been open with safety measures, of course. And I just want to add that our shelter is all gender. So any and all gender is welcome there. And that goes for any of our services. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say there. Emily, did I miss anything? Okay, cool.
You can go to the next slide. Okay, thanks. So one of the biggest things to talk about when we're talking about sexual violence in general is communication and consent. they're vital in any situation, in any relationship. And so if you find yourself in a position where you don't know how to communicate what your desires are in that relationship, or you don't know what the needs or wants of your partner is, that's the time to stop and find out what the boundaries are and what the expectations are before anything happens. So consent is something that is constant communication about it. Anybody is allowed to withdraw consent at any time. And then when that consent is withdrawn, the boundary has to be respected. If that boundary is not respected, that's when the assault occurs. So a lot of people talk about these 4 words that I put down at the bottom when we talk about consent. Consent is clear. So, you know, making sure that you are understanding this is my boundary and I'm not going to cross it. You don't have to say an audible no. You can make sure that the person is, you want to make sure though that you're hearing a yes. So make sure that that person is all in. Consent is coherent. If the other individual is under the influence of drugs, alcohol, if they're in some sort of medical situation, if they are asleep, they are not able to give consent. If they are under a certain age, they are not able to give consent. So it's important that when you're getting consent, it is under those circumstances. Consent is willing. So if the person feels uncomfortable and they feel the need to say yes because they're fearful or they feel like they're being coerced or forced into that, that is not consent. They may be saying yes, but on the inside they may feel, I don't really want to do this. So you want to make sure that that consent is a true willing yes. And then, as I just mentioned, consent is ongoing. You need to make sure that there's an open dialogue between you and the other person to make sure that there's no boundaries being crossed, people are feeling comfortable, and that you're really respecting each other. You can go to the next slide, Barb. So when it comes to sexual assault, you know, I think a lot of people think of what can I do to keep myself safe? And there's probably a lot of things going through your head that you've been ingrained with of, you know, be aware of your surroundings. Don't walk outside alone in the dark. Always carry a potential weapon. But the reality is 8 out of 10 sexual assaults are committed by people that are known to the victim, whether that's a friend, a family member, an acquaintance, something of that sort, and they're often trusted by that person. So the concept of the stranger rape, the dark alley attack, it happens, but it is far less likely. And so working on changing that mind frame to being aware of what happens around us in things of people's own homes, in their places of worship, in their schools, in their workplaces. Those are the things that we really need to talk about. And that's why Sexual Assault Awareness Month is so important, because there's still a very big narrative around, you know, oh, be careful when you go out and are by yourself, versus making sure you know the safeties and the dangers of somebody coercing you to do something that you don't want to do in a place where you would otherwise feel safe. When we're talking about true prevention, that goes to looking at the behaviors of the perpetrator. You know, a lot of people think of prevention as, okay, looking at those things that I mentioned at the beginning of the safety measures And that's prevention. That's not prevention. That might be some awareness and things like that, but true prevention, to prevent something from happening, you have to stop the crime from happening. And the only person responsible for that crime is the person committing it. So working on talking to younger people, focusing on making sure they know what consent is, making sure that they know what it is to have, especially children, when you're talking about it's not okay for people to touch you in certain areas. There's always a level of what's appropriate for each age group. And if you're not sure about that, talk to teachers, talk to counselors, talk to pediatricians, things like that, on how to talk to your kids about that. And additionally, and Barb mentioned this at the beginning, there's also being an aware and vocal bystander. If you see something happening, speak up. If it's somebody close to you, talk to that person. If you see something in public, say something, call the police, do something that's going to stop that cycle from happening. Because if we don't do that, as Barb said, silence becomes acceptable. And there's no place in this society where silence around sexual violence should be accepted anymore. It was for far too long, and we should not be standing up for it any longer. Stephanie, I don't know if you want to add anything to this conversation on this slide.
No, I love what you said, and I think just something I wrote down as you were talking, Emily, is just like, we see, you and I especially see a lot of harm that happens within a relationship, and we're going to get to this in a minute, that healing also happens in relationships. And I think it starts with like a really good relationship with yourself and knowing what your boundaries are, what your red flags are, what the warning signs sort of are for you, and then talking to others who are like-minded and can help you build that confidence. It goes really far with prevention and healing, both ends of that spectrum.
Absolutely. You can go to the next slide. So, Stephanie, if you want to talk about this, especially since it's a lot of what you do with your program.
Yeah, so we work with survivors on a lot of different levels, right? Like there's people that have either used violence or harm, and people that have received that. And then it's also kind of the unit and the support system around them. And a lot of the times what we hear from those family members and supporters, or even people who are donating to Sojourner or want to know what we are, it's just like, well, you know, I know someone that's gone through this. How do I help them? What do I do? I feel so helpless. I feel like I'm not saying the right thing. And I will be honest with you, as advocates, Emily and I would say, we don't always know the right thing to say either, even though we've done this for years and years. So here's some tips that we've come up with that have helped us just kind of start from a foundation of love and empathy and compassion, which is what you want to be giving that person you care about. So yes, it's hard to find the words sometimes, and that is totally okay. It would scare me a little bit if we didn't have the word, once we start being comfortable with these words, because that would mean it's a really regular occurrence. So some phrases that have really helped me have been, I'm just so glad you told me. I'm sorry this happened. I'm here. This is a really good one for working with survivors or anyone really having a hard time, is just like, I can be here to listen to you, or I can problem solve. What are you looking for right in this moment? And then again, just letting someone know how much you care for them. You would be surprised how far that goes, because a lot of time what's happening in these relationships is their self-worth, them believing if they're even worthy of love anymore is it's diminishing, right? So anytime you can remind them that they are worthy of love and care is amazing. Really ask what they need, ask questions, just allow that space for them kind of feeling like they're drowning in a little bit and wanting to change their mind, because that's part of this too. Safety is number one, and that's what Emily and I would work with someone right away, especially depending on how recent the event was. So does someone need medical care? Does someone need to report to an officer? There'll be like the physical, mental, emotional safety. Do they need a place to crash for a few days? Is this happening at work? Can they go back there? So advocates, we're going to show you some resources in a moment, but that's what our advocates can do, is really help safety plan. You don't have to take that on yourself, but just knowing that there's resources out there to help. Again, let them lead, give choices, and then I'm going to come to you and say, you're going to need some self-care. You're going to need time and space to process what's happened. You're gonna need to talk to someone too. And I don't mean like sharing and gossiping. I mean like, this was heavy. I'm worried about this person. That's also gonna come with, again, that boundary word of letting that person know you're there for them, but this is what I'm able to do. Because let's be real, you have your own life. You have people that depend on you. You have jobs. You taking on more than you can isn't going to help either. And so if you have any other ideas of things that have helped you walk with someone through this experience, feel free to chat at us and let us know. And Emily, anything you want to add? You're so good at all this.
No, I really appreciated Stephanie adding this to the conversation, because one of the things that I just want to not necessarily add, but highlight that she mentioned here is really allowing space for them to say what it is that they need, allow them to take the lead, give choices, things like that, because it's very easy, especially if it's somebody you know, you love, you care about, to want to jump in and take charge and say, we need to go to the police about this, we need to talk to this person, we need to do this, we need to do that. They may not want to do that. And as a support person, you need to be okay with that. Because what's going to be best for their healing in that moment is what needs to be the priority there. And that can be very difficult for you. So going back to what Stephanie said about taking care of yourself, that's also very important too. So I really appreciated that too, Stephanie. So thank you for highlighting that.
I'm just going to pop in and say we did domestic violence awareness in November, and did have a survivor on. And it was amazing to me that there are so many points where maybe somebody did say something, but she wasn't ready to go there. And not having been on either side, you don't know how to tread water. And the one thing I do know is that the person, whether it's drug addiction or trying to lose 10 pounds, you've got to own it and be the one to say, I want this to change. And even with all the support, and that's hard as an observer to understand that. But it's the balance that we really need to play in trying to take the next step.
Absolutely, Barb. And I appreciate you for bringing that up, because it was a very good illustration. Stephanie, we had somebody from Voices come on and talk about their experience. And so it's nice to hear from somebody who has been through something like this and to really understand how giving them that power back, how giving them the space to take that back for themselves makes such a big difference, because they've had that taken from them. So you're not here to come in and take that away all over again. You're there to make space for them to take it back, and to just support them in that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Barb, because that was a perfect example. Absolutely.
Cool.
You can go to the next slide.
I keep getting like trigger happy because of the way it pops up on the bottom. I can't.
Oh,
see it,
no,
right?
You're totally fine.
And see, now here it goes. It won't pop up when I want it, and there it goes. And then it will when I don't want it. Ta-da! Did I go one too many, or is that, no, it's 16.
No,
okay.
no. And so this is the contact information for myself and for Stephanie, along with our 24-hour hotline number at Sojourner. So if you or anybody you know may need to reach out whether it's because you're struggling, you need advice because you know somebody's struggling, or you just want more information about this, please feel free to reach out to us. We are always here to help in any way that we can. And, you know, I know Barb and myself have organized a few different events through the Near West Side. And so if there are things that you'd like to see, whether it's presentations in other organizations or things like that, we're happy to do that as well. But then we also included a couple of other slides with some specific resources towards healing and sexual assault related resources that are beyond just the two of us, especially culturally competent ones. If you've got somebody who is a Spanish speaker, Hmong speaker, somebody part of the Muslim community, we wanted to make sure that we encompassed all of the resources that are available in this community, because while Stephanie and I are happy to help, and Sojourner is always happy to help, we aren't the only experts in this community, and we want to make sure that you have all the resources available to you.
Cool. Stephanie, would you care to add anything before I move on?
No, that's great. I think I know what's coming next, and I'll speak to that. Yes. Okay, cool. So, Barbara, I'm so glad you brought up Voices. They are a collective of survivors who do things just like this, you know, tell their story, talk about their experiences, so more people know that they're not alone and can find help and healing. And something that just went live yesterday that committee created was this healing landing page off of our website. It is so cool. I'm so proud of them. The language they put together, it's like poetry. It's like you're reading art, and it's all about healing and getting support and not feeling alone. So if you know someone that could just use some language like that, or reminders, or maybe for yourself, hint, take time for yourself, that might be a good place to turn to. And I think we can go to the next one then.
So there are a lot of resources, and while we leave that up there for a minute, there are a couple of thoughts that I had, or questions to ask. Can you touch upon, we typically think of sexual assault on women, and I know there is a population of men that this occurs to. Can you talk a little more about that?
Absolutely. So actually, there's an organization called 1 in 6, and because 1 in 6 men are also sexually assaulted, and that is often a staggering statistic to a lot of people. If you go to either of the websites that are provided on the screen too, it gives a lot more in-depth look too on some of those statistics, especially when you're looking at childhood sexual assault, because that number only increases as you're looking at younger populations. But what we often see is that male identifying individuals do not speak up as much as women do, whether that is for fear of any sort of retaliation, whether it's more of a societal pressure on, you know, how will I look if I talk about that, I don't want to look weak, or whatever the narrative is that they've been told throughout their lives. And I'd say probably in the last 10 years or so, I've seen a larger shift in more men speaking out, at least like high profile men speaking out on their experiences with sexual assault, whether that's celebrities, athletes, things like that, and really trying to reduce that stigma around it. But it's a constant struggle. So there are resources available specifically for men who have experienced this. And like I said, on the links that I've provided, they go through all the different resources throughout the country to just talk about statistics, what's available specifically for men, things like that, to maybe make that a little bit more comfortable.
Cool. I will shift to the next slide, and then one other question. Oops, sorry, I thought you had two. Did you have two resource slides, or was there one?
It's just this
Okay.
one.
Oh, for some reason, there are two. So we'll leave that because this is a very important page to look at. Can you also touch upon cultural differences and not so much resources, but how that's changed through time because culturally different groups accept the sexual assault as differently than another?
Absolutely. I think that's even more of a generally sexual assault has evolved over time because of the way it's looked at. But that is a big reason why I've put very culturally specific resources on this page, because there are still to this day certain cultures that view relationships as more of an ownership, who feel like, you know, spouses have rights to their partner's body, to that sexual contact, and then when it's brought up, it's not taken seriously because of those beliefs. And so when you have small groups of people starting to speak out about that, starting to talk about that, there are movements that begin, I know, in a lot of like Asian countries like India and things like that. There's a huge movement against sexual assault of women because they are seen as property in many places, especially younger girls, and it leads to a lot of unrest sometimes. But here in the US, you know, there are these resources available because it does still happen within relationships. And I know Stephanie mentioned at the beginning that she does help connect survivors to culturally specific resources as necessary. So Stephanie, I don't know if you want to add a little bit to this.
I love everything you're saying, and it's a great question, Barb, and I feel like we could spend a whole nother hour just talking about that. But yeah, there are so many great, Milwaukee's just so rich with different groups doing really cool work. And I think just thinking about the things that could get in the way for someone either not having someone of their own community to reach out to and get help, and kind of the stigma and the worry that, oh, my community's small, are they going to be talking about me? Are they going to share this? So it's always, again, good when you're supporting someone to really ask what they want and what they're looking for. And I just also, another community I want to highlight is folks of different abilities, our disabled population here in Milwaukee. I think that is a group that is highly taken advantage of in a number of horrific ways, unfortunately, but sexual assault is definitely high in that group. And again, for the same things you mentioned, Emily, just not taken seriously, not being seen as a full human that you are, and what happens when someone sees you in that way is scary. So again, there's culturally beyond race and ethnicity or country of origin, there's different ways to identify too that could be a safe place for someone to take a first step in getting support.
Yeah, thank you.
I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. But thank you. Great question.
If you think of it, don't hesitate to speak up. I'm going to ask one more question of both of you, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. People that are tuned in, you can email me, email our two speakers if you have specific questions. And as we post this on Facebook Live, you can put those questions in the comments and we'll take a look at it. We'll keep monitoring as we move forward. We did have a little technical difficulty getting the Facebook started today. So just want to let those folks know that we will still answer any questions. And my final question to both of you, and it starts with a thank you for your service and what you bring to help our community heal. And what makes you, how did you find yourself down this path, and what makes you get up every day?
Oh, that's a big question. So for me, it was something that I just kind of discovered in my high school years. Did a lot of research into, and then kind of moved away from in college. Had a completely different life plan. Went to go get my PhD and got into school and was like, I can't do this for another 7 years. And then was like, what do I actually enjoy? And came back to this and realized this is where my passion lies. This is what I love to do. And I think just getting up every morning and being able to interact with people in the community, interact with other community service providers, the partnerships that we truly incredible. And I mean, I can speak for myself in working at the police department. It's a crazy dynamic sometimes because, again, I'm confidential, so I can't give them all the information that's given to me sometimes. But they respect that completely. They come to me with concerns about survivors when they take reports. I'm really seeing a different side of the community when I get to partner with different groups of people and then get to do my crisis outreach, because as Stephanie said at the beginning, I do more of the crisis. Like, I'm first contact with people, so I'm making sure, do you have a safe place to stay? Are you eating? Are you, how are the kids? How's this and that? And then once we get that stabilized, I do a warm handoff to Stephanie or other people at Sojourner to make sure that they're getting the long-term services. So being able to do that crisis intervention to make sure people are safe and happy, those are the things that I just love to do. So that, I mean, that's what makes me keep going every day.
Oh, Emily, I loved hearing your answer, but gosh, I do just want to point out, we meant to add diverse and resilient to this list, a huge asset and resource to the community for our friends in the LGBTQ plus community. We know that sexual assault, violence is alive there as well. So just wanted to point that out. They have a great resource, a number, it's, oh God, I'll have it for you. A room to be safe, a hotline to reach out to get advocacy support if you're in that community. Highly recommend them. They're amazing. Okay, to answer your question, Barb, what a great question. Like a lot of our staff and volunteers, this is part of my family history. This is part of my personal history. And once you see it and once you know it's there, you just can't turn away, and you have to feel like, I don't know, you just want to support and be there, and the transformation our clients and the families we work with go through, it's just so cool. It's just, it's magic. But I think, as you could imagine, there's a lot of darkness and pain and sadness with this job, but because that is so big, the opposite side is also so big. So a lot of our work is a lot of joy and growth and healing, and getting to work with really smart people who could have had their doctorate like Emily every day is just so cool. So yeah, it's a lot of fun too. It's great. Yeah, I hope to do this I hope I don't have to do this job, because we figured out a way to heal and families don't have to go through this. But as long as they need me, I'll be here alongside Emily and alongside all you.
Thank you. Yes, and I just really did want to touch upon the work you do is so valuable, and it's hard. So you definitely have to have a passion, and it's very evident with both of you is that this is where you can make a difference, and that's what does it for you. So thank you. So I will move on to our next slide and wrap up. Ladies, not to say that you don't have to stay on screen, but you can go ahead and turn your video off if you don't want to nod your head a lot more. And then, or feel free to stay on, but thank you again. And I will go ahead and wrap us up for today. If I can
Thank you so much, Barb.
You're welcome. Thank you. And really,
Thank you.
as Keith Stanley says, it's the power of the partnership, and that's really what we're here to do. And that's why I like my job every day. And okay. Oh, here it comes. There it goes. Okay, so I will go ahead and wrap this up. No different than Sojo, we are always looking for support. So if you have the opportunity to provide financial support to Near West Side partners, please do. Amazon Smile is a great way to do it. We all use Amazon, or most of us do, and it's just an easy little way. It's a little bit different than just going on to Amazon, but it'll just give us a few dollars every day, and every penny adds up if you can do that. And upcoming, we have next week's webinar is Reckless Driving with Alderman Shantia Lewis, Celia Jackson, and Damian Smith. And with that, this was recorded in September, so it's going to be a replay. And then we will, for the next P-Core webinar, we are discussing legal considerations for employers during COVID-19. And with that in mind, if you have a specific question, our guest speaker is Meg Kurlinski. We are going to be recording that next week. So please get any questions you might have about legal considerations for employers during COVID-19. She is going to answer them. And we may need to do another video or two if we have more questions, but please do consider that. And then also don't hesitate to contact me if you need more information about the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and then upcoming if you have a specific question about legal considerations. Thank you so much for being part of our weekly webinar, and I wish y'all a very good afternoon. Take care.